am from Gatsky, Minnesota. I was born and raised in Gatsky on the farm. Went to grade school and country school and two different country schools in Gatsky, and then I went to high school in Middle River. Graduated in 1956. I farmed with my dad for a couple of years till I got notice to report for physical. And in those years, that meant if I passed, I would be drafted. So I just volunteered for the draft to get it over with. March 18th of 58, I reported, went to Fort Carson, Colorado for basic training. After basic training, I was offered a chance to go to the Nike Ajax missiles, a new program that sounded very exciting. But to get in, I took a short discharge. I was discharged one day and re-enlisted the same afternoon for 3 years so that I could go to the Nike missiles. The first successful surface-to-air missile in the world. That sounded very exciting to this old farm boy. When I got my assignment to a battery just out of Rapid City, South Dakota, that was there in the Air Force Base, Ellsworth Air Force Base protection. We replaced the anti-aircraft guns that guarded the air base. And I spent over 2 years there. I guess I had just gained my E5, Specialist E5 rating when they transferred me to Scott Air Force Base, Illinois, just out of St. Louis, Missouri. And my wife had been with me all the time, so we packed up. The military moved us to the little town where we found a place to live, and there I was the last 7.5 months or so that I served. I was with the Nike Hercules, a nuclear warheaded missile with much improved range, and I spent the rest of my time there. Considered re-enlisting, offered E6 for re-enlist, certainly considered it because I liked the missiles. I liked what I was doing. We got to go down to White Sands annually and shoot down aerial targets with the missiles. I thought that was really something. But my dad passed away suddenly in the spring of '61, and I was eligible for release in late April of '61, no, May of '61, I'm sorry. And I did what a farm boy did. I just came back to the farm. And that's basically the story of my military experience. I enjoyed every minute of it. I wouldn't trade my experience for anything in the world.
Okay. Howard, let's go back to basic training. What was that like for you? What was basic training like for you?
Basic training?
Yeah.
Most of basic training I enjoyed. I'd been walking a 16-mile trap line that fall and into the winter, so I was certainly in good enough shape to handle basic trainings. Some of the harassment made absolutely no sense to me, but physically it wasn't any problem.
Okay. Did you ever go up Pikes Peak?
I'm sorry?
Did you ever go up Pikes Peak?
Did I ever?
Pikes Peak.
The mountain.
Pikes Peak? Pikes Peak? No, I never did go to Pikes Peak.
Okay.
No, I only had one weekend off during my basic training, and I went down to Colorado Springs and just looked around. That was it.
Okay. So, what are some of the things you did in basic training?
Some of the things, what?
Some of the things you did in basic training?
In basic training, what everybody else did. An awful lot of marching, an awful lot of grunt work, some of which made no sense. get up in the middle of the night and haul rocks from one side of the road to the other. Next night, get up and haul them back where we'd got them the night before. Just various harassing things like that.
Okay. So, what was the food like in basic training?
What was my what?
What was the food like in basic training?
Well, basic training it was really a good experience. I guess I'd heard enough about the military from friends that had spent time in, but I didn't realize that they basically just wanted you to obey without hesitation. So that's why we got all this harassment.
Okay.
Never did understand some of it because we'd get chewed out if we question anything. And then at other times they would say probably the same day, use your own initiative. And I didn't quite understand it. Never will.
Yeah. What were your barracks like? Your living quarters?
We were in the barracks. They were the old World War II barracks. But they were well maintained. They were in good shape. Not a thing wrong with where we were housed. Nothing. I never complained about military chow that was served in the mess hall. The rations out in the field weren't anything to be appreciated. They were old World War II rations that hadn't been used.
Okay. And
but I enjoyed, and the rifle range, the pistol range, I enjoyed that.
So, what was your MOS? What was your MOS?
Oh boy, I don't remember. Military occupation specialty, I don't remember the number. I was a radar, what would you call it? A radar technician.
Okay. And that's what you did for the rest of your career?
That's what I was all the time, yes. I worked in the radar vans, primarily the target tracking radar. And that, it was really, I found it very interesting. Even if I had time off, I was in there practicing in the van. Because it was just something very, very interesting that we could detect targets 150 miles out and track them in. And if it was something, which did happen occasionally, where their IFF, identification friend or foe on the aircraft, didn't work, then we would call the air base and they would scramble jet fighters and go check it out personally. And we'd go up to hot status so that we could have fired a missile at any time. And thankfully, we never had to.
Okay. What was your best thing to do in the military? What's the most fun you had?
The most what?
What's the most fun you had in the military?
The most fun?
Yes.
I think just working with all the electronics, the radars, missile tracking, and target tracking, and I enjoyed every bit of working with them, and I also enjoyed the camaraderie. And I still enjoy the camaraderie through the American Legion. It's just so fun to be around other vets, and my wife and I eloped and were married just on the day that I was to report. And she was with me. We lived off post. She was with me all the time, so I'm sure that made the military a lot easier to like also.
Right. Is there anything you want to add about your military career?
Anything I want to add?
Yep. Anything you'd have done different?
Would I do anything different? No, I would not.
Well, it sounds like you had a good military career, Howard. It sounds like you had a good military career.
I had an excellent military experience. Wouldn't trade it for the world.
Is there anything you want to add?
If we had a little time off, which we didn't have very much of, it was in the height of the Cold War, and they were. But if we had a little time off, we were right in prime pheasant and rabbit hunting, and myself and one of our warrant officers, we got together and did a lot of pheasant hunting and some rabbit hunting, and we just had a lot of. One of the interesting experiences that I should mention is how the military, I suppose all government agencies can waste time doing things they shouldn't be doing, but the Nike Ajax system, as I said, was replaced by the Nike Hercules. We didn't need all the batteries around to protect an air base when we went to nuclear missiles. So they shut down the bases in Rapid City, or all of the different batteries were shut down, replaced by one single Nike Hercules. And when I went to the Nike Hercules in Illinois, well, it was just an entirely different situation. High-powered radars, nuclear warheads, everything very, very careful. But when we shut down the base in Rapid City, according to the military, and I suppose government everywhere, we had emptied the missile silos, we had emptied radar station, we had emptied everything out and shipped it out. And yet the place had to be guarded until it was officially turned over, shut down and turned over by the government. Therefore, the lower ranks were sent to the air base to pull duty for the Air Force, which wasn't very much appreciated. And most of us who are E5 to E7 pulled rotating shifts guarding a completely empty missile battery, which meant that we drove around in 1957 Chevrolet staff cars with our 22 rifles and shot jackrabbits for 6 weeks. This was my duty. I certainly enjoyed that.
Yeah, so sounds like fun. Anything else you want to add?
No, I think that pretty well covers it.
Well, Howard, I want to thank you for doing this interview and thank you for your service.
You're very much welcome. Thank you.
Yep, you bet.